Welcome to the TLW podcast. Jonathan Pixley here with my partner, Sean Owens.
How we doing, guys?
We are honored to have our first guest join us today. Good friend, longtime friend of mine, but a guy who has accomplished a heck of a lot in a short span in his lifetime, Mr. Ryan Theriot. Ryan, thank you so much for being on with us, man.
I appreciate you guys having me. It's an honor to be on, and this ought to be fun, so let's do it.
First guest ever, Ryan Theriot. So after we take off today, we'll know exactly why it happened for sure. Just a little background. I'm going to let Ryan give a little bit more of it as well. But Ryan was a professional baseball player for 14 years. He grew up in Baton Rouge, played at Broadmoor High School, was all everything in every sport basically. Most importantly, I would say, however, you probably are the greatest street football receiver in the history of street football, right? For sure. But Ryan went on to obviously great success in high school, then went on to LSU, where he was a huge part of a national championship team. Won?
At LSU, won, correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then went on to win how many World Series?
Two in the major leagues.
2 World Series in the major leagues, where much like at LSU, where you scored the game-winning run, you scored the game-winning run when you were with the Giants as well, correct? So kind of cool how that came full circle. What we're going to be talking to Ryan about today falls right in line with everything that we've done up to this point. And again, for somebody who has accomplished so much in just the athletic world, to watch what he is now doing in the business world, where he is certainly not pigeonholed himself as just an athlete, right, who is living in the glory days. We're going to talk a lot about that and his journey, and I'm going to let him tell his story to you guys because it's an impressive journey and he's had to overcome a lot without question in order to get where he has gotten. But let's just start it off with this. When you were in high school, first of all, let's just start there. Mm-hmm. And you're at Broadmoor High School. You're an all-state athlete. You're a great basketball player too, right?
I love basketball.
How did you know, and when did you know that you were going to be good enough? I mean, because look, there's a lot of great high school athletes who they're not quite good enough to get to the level that you got to. How did you know that you had a chance to do what you did at LSU?
Man, I don't think it was ever a question for me. I mean, you've known me since I was a baby. Yeah. I thought I was good enough to play for the Yankees when I was 15, so confidence was never the thing. The aha moment was getting to LSU, as a freshman that fall and being around guys that I idolized and watched win championships over there and fitting right in. There's a bit of uncertainty when you bump up a level from high school to college, minor leagues to the major leagues, and then being an impact player in the major leagues. You really need that comfort level. But that fall, my first year at LSU, Skip showing the confidence in me to be one of the starters on one of the teams in the fall, and then putting up some pretty good numbers. I felt like I belonged there pretty quick.
So you're at LSU. You're starting to establish yourself. Okay, you're still young, obviously, at this point. At what point did you know? Because here at TLW, we are all about talking about the importance for true, authentic male leadership in our world right now. Okay, and we feel like a lot of guys in the world right now are missing the boat, right? And at what point did you know in that program that you were going to be one of the leaders?
That's been a quality that I think I groomed at an early age. You mentioned our street football games as kids, but I was just blessed to be around guys that were older than me, but still took the time to invest in me, like yourself and Patrick Coogan's of the world, my brother Wes. There's so many at that age that impacted my life and showed me what it was to lead and what that looked like. And there's multiple ways to do it. Obviously, leading by example, being a vocal leader, leading with your actions. And so it was never really a conscious thought. But the second I got on campus, I met a guy that I had watched for the last 4 years, 3 years, 4 years. and just marveled over in Blair Barbier. And it was when we started to form a relationship where I said, okay, you know, this is how these things are done. This is how championships are won. Because up until that point, you know, we didn't win a state championship in high school, which we should have, but it was missing that key component that you just talked about. And it was at that time, truthfully, where I really understood why LSU dominated the way that they did, and obviously very talented, but there was not a lack of leadership qualities in and out that clubhouse, and that starts at the top with Skip.
What's it like for you, you know, a young guy coming into a program that's got such an incredible reputation? Like you said, y'all didn't lack leadership as it was.
Right.
Young guy coming in and automatically stepping into a leadership role. Was that something that was met with any challenge? Was that something that the program fostered and kind of lent itself towards moving in the direction of?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's one goal there, and that's to win in Omaha, period, end of discussion. You know, and there was a moment early in that season where we had the national anthem before the game starts, as you guys know, and so we line up on the foul line, and I was hitting leadoff, and I think Blair was hitting second, and the national anthem's playing, you know, and so as it's happening, I'm like talking to him, and he looks at me and he goes, "Respect our flag," in so many words. Shut your mouth, in so many words. There was probably some other stuff that was said there, and I kind of had the reputation, not reputation, but I didn't lack in confidence. I still don't, which I think is a good thing. And he pulled me aside after that game and he said, "Without you, we can't win." You know, and he looks at me, he's like, "We need you to be your best. And if you are, we can win a championship." And that, you know, resonated with me like, okay, you know, I'm needed here. Like I need, you know, and it was, he led in different ways, obviously, but little things like that. There's folks that we all have in our lives that when they talk, people listen. And you really kind of got to wonder why that is the case. And it's because their words have substance and meaning. And, you know, it's from that point forward where I wasn't afraid to speak my mind or say what I had to say. But that's a respect that you earn, too. I mean, if I stunk or was a terrible dude, then I couldn't. But you know, they knew it came from a good place.
Love it, man. It's awesome.
Okay, so let's fast forward. You're coming out of LSU. You have aspirations to play Major League Baseball, which such an incredibly small percentage of baseball players get to do. Spent a few years in the minor leagues, trying to achieve that goal. When you got there, and the Cubs was your first stop.
Yep.
First of all, just talk about what it was like walking in the locker room the first time knowing that you're a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah. You know, growing up in Baton Rouge, and I don't know how this is with other sports, but especially with baseball, you don't dream of playing in the major leagues. You dream of putting on the purple and gold. And that's just that's the truth.
It's true, yeah.
You know, I didn't idolize, you know, King Griffey Jr. and these guys. I idolized Warren Morris and Rush Johnson and Todd Walker. And so I had checked that box.
Yeah.
And the big leagues was just lagniappe for me. And truthfully, I was never the guy that's like, oh, I got to play in the big leagues. That wasn't it. It was, I mean, I want to win a championship for LSU. I want to put on the purple and gold. And so that was icing on the cake, man. But I'll tell you this, when it became real, my junior year, when it looked like, you know, I was going to be a pretty high pick, because we talked to scouts and all that stuff, you know, then that's when you let your mind kind of go a little bit. And the grind from A-ball to the big leagues is like nothing I've ever experienced. So when you do get the call that, oh, you're a big leaguer now, you're about to get on a plane and fly to San Diego, the Cubs are playing the Padres, and you're going to be part of that team. And it was a pretty surreal moment. Funny story. I get off the taxi, get out of the taxi after we landed, and I went to pay the taxi with my debit card, and I didn't have any money left.
That was about to change, though.
And I called my wife, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" She's like, "I didn't have the heart to tell you. We're broke." Like, people don't understand the grind that minor leagues is and takes on families and how much it costs, and you know, and so Yeah, I mean, it was a relief, obviously, but then also there was a very prideful moment. The best part was, obviously that first start in Wrigley Field where Wes flew up, my family was there. You're able to see the smiles on everybody's faces, knowing that they had a major part in that and getting me there and helping me and being supportive. So, yeah, man, it was a great moment.
When you talk about the grind of the minors,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a baseball guy, so I have no idea.
They suck. Minor league sucks. Let me just say that.
So, what is it that you were able to use as fuel to deal with the absolute hell that you were going through with that?
I mean, look, I wanted to quit multiple times. I mean, it's not a whole lot of fun.
I would imagine maintaining positivity through all that
it's
is
hard.
an absolute
It's
nightmare.
tough.
Yeah.
Let me say this: without my wife Jonna, who Jonathan knows well, there was no chance.
Yeah.
Zero. Without that support, she traveled with me, went everywhere with me, even in the minor leagues, and knowing that I had someone to fall back on was very comforting. She was extremely successful in her own right at LSU, cheering and her sorority and grades and all that stuff, and was changing diapers for old folks in Lansing, Michigan, so we could have enough money to where I could continue to play.
Awesome.
Turn down monster jobs all over the country, computer development stuff, just to follow me around and wait tables at Outback Steakhouse in Daytona Beach. And so understanding her sacrifice and me going, yeah, this sucks for me, and 12-hour bus rides with guys that I don't even know and don't even like, most of them, I'm going to deal with it because she doesn't want to be doing this either. Like, we're in this junk together. And so, that was, without her support, man, it would have been impossible.
That sacrifice is awesome.
Yeah.
Both of y'all.
Yeah,
That's really
absolutely
really cool.
is.
So that leads me to really part of what I wanted to discuss with you today, as a man, right, and as a believer, and as somebody who, has had a successful marriage, and you've raised 3 beautiful children. By the way, your oldest is going to LSU next year to run track.
Yep.
Okay, so congratulations on that, obviously. Being a man throughout this whole process, and having a wife as supportive as that, and then eventually getting to where you are raising a family. While baseball, to the outside world, would be your identity to most, right?
Fair.
Because, look, I tell young people this all the time. They're like, well, I don't want to be pigeonholed in this and this and this. You have to be known for something before you can influence anyone, right? And so if you're known for one thing, fine, you can branch off from those things, for sure, which you've obviously done. But while this is going on, okay, how did you hold it together? How did you hold a marriage together? How did you hold a family together? I mean, you're on the road all the time. This is, I can't imagine. I wanted to do the same thing. Obviously, my injury eliminated that from happening, but I often wonder, like, how difficult that would have been.
Yeah, it's first off, I think it's are you doing it for the right reasons is something that will play in that question pretty heavily. And I can just tell you, your initial goals going into the thing, and then your goals at the end, and then once you retire and decide to call it quits, are 3 totally different things. People never talk about the mental health side and that toll that it takes on guys that feel the way that you just described. So men that are believers, that are leaders, that are good fathers, husbands, friends, family members, that don't have or need the outlet of some of the things that we see pro athletes do nowadays and have done in the past, which, it'll wear on them. Being the person that you're supposed to be, a good dude, is not easy in that environment. I would say it's not a family man conducive environment. Not saying that it's impossible. Some of the greatest guys that I know were professional athletes, and so. But understanding what your goals are and staying consistent, right? Being the best father you can be. I had a great example in my dad. and being the best brother and friend that you can be. Those are things that I think kids nowadays kind of forget about. Being the best teammate you can be. Again, things that are forgotten about. I focused on a lot of that stuff, and then understanding that one day it was going to all end. My biggest fear was always kind of something you just hit on. I don't want to be known as Ryan Theriot, the guy that played baseball. I retired on my biggest contract. We just walked away. I was healthy and could have continued to play for sure. But it was getting to that point in my career where I was going to be coaching first base for the Cubs,
right.
and then maybe get promoted to hitting coach, and then I might be the manager of the Devil Rays in a few years. Like it was getting close to where I'm going to be a lifer.
Yeah.
Which is, look, there's nothing wrong with that. But to be the best father I needed to be the best friend I needed to be, and family member and brother, like that wasn't going to happen in that scenario.
Right.
And that scared the hell out of me for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's pretty good stuff, I know.
that's powerful. It is for sure. But at the same time, when you look at that and you made the decision to get out, and then obviously, and we'll talk about your role in the business world now and what you've decided to do. Was there ever, or how long did the what's next occur for you?
Man, I'm a planner, dude, big time. Went in with a couple partners and bought that property that Traction sits on in 2001.
Okay.
The year after I was drafted.
Yeah.
I've been broke before. I'll be broke again. I don't care. So we spent my signing bonus on that. So I started planning in 2002 for what it was going to look like, in 2022. It was called Heart of Champions at the time, but that started, those wheels started turning. Then every offseason I would get some sort of license, my Series 6 and 7, or my real estate license, or construction, which is the field I'm in. I'd get one of those licenses and probably built, 15 or 20 houses up and down Highland Road while I was playing. So this is all during my major league career. I'm kind of like going, okay, what's next? What's going to be the move? What do I enjoy? What do I like? Thank God for Traction was able to bridge that gap of, 6 to 8 years of uncertainty that you need to unwind out of that clubhouse mentality.
Right.
Because my whole life I'd show up to the clubhouse, I'd look at the itinerary, I'd see what time weights were and batting practice, and and so I was told what to do. So I needed a good, few years to really be able to breathe a little bit and go, okay, which one of these areas am I going to attack? And also, it was a time in my kids' life where I needed to take them to school every day because I missed all that crap.
Yeah.
So I did that. I mean, took them to school, picked them up, took them to practice. I did all that, and then, man, it was probably about 6 years into that post-retirement. I was at Traction, where the light bulb just went off. I'm like, okay, it's time. Now I'm ready for part 2, and then, here we are.
Talk about where we are right now.
Man, I'm a big team guy. I've operated in a team my whole life, and so I don't like doing things by myself business-wise. Now, I had a great partner over at Traction, Mac Chiwilli. I know you're familiar with Mac. Brad Cressy, Eddie Parfait, the guys at Traction are great. Ryan Clark. And I kind of had that same experience in the construction world with Richard Tilley, my partner now. Trent Davis, another one. Rick Ward, another one of my partners. And so just phenomenal humans that all are pulling the rope in the same direction. We dove straight into construction and roofing with a company called HUDCO that we started here. Had a lot of success there, Richard and I, and then kind of rebranded that thing to Parish, which is what it is now. It's a little bit broader stroke. We do more than just roofing, but still fabulous company. Had some opportunities in the industrial world. T3 Industrial Solutions is another company that we own and operate that I love. I probably spend most of my day on T3, truthfully. We've got an electrical division there, and we had a restoration arm that with Parish that we just are up and running with that thing. So It's getting a group of guys in the room. The widget really doesn't matter. If it's the right folks, I think my superpower is getting the right humans there and then going, okay, this is what you're good at, this is what you're good at, this is what you're good at. And man, it could be, selling these energy drinks or whatever.
This is not just any energy
what
drink.
energy drink are you talking about?
Yeah.
And we would like to thank The Rock for creating the greatest energy drink known to man.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Strawberry watermelon.
Yep.
You need to get that tattoo, Pix.
You think The Rock's tattoo?
Yeah,
That's
right.
I don't think my arm's big enough. That's all right.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I really enjoy hearing about your story, Ryan, is the significance of phases in life. One of the things that I've walked through in my life is as I was getting out of one business aspect and moving into another, I was always under the assumption that, okay, I just need to continue going down a certain road until it ends, and there's never going to be any deviation. Obviously, that's so far from the truth. It just shows my continued evolution into adulthood. But knowing and respecting and understanding that you are a different person at different times in your life for different people is absolutely been something that I've been so excited about seeing. It sounds like that's been a huge part of your life with getting out of ball, getting into that different phase that you were in life with your kids, driving to school every single day. And then as that kind of settled on then moving into these different opportunities where you're able to continue having an impact with people around you. I think that's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and it's understanding them too, and also not getting caught in the rut of seasons. I think we all have those seasons in our life, and when you're a business owner, sometimes you're super fat, and sometimes you got to be skinny, and then you'll hit that sweet spot where we are right now, I think, with the right folks, to where everything just, man, it just seems to play. It works. And you're like, oh, man, everything's popping at the same time. Well, that's by design.
Yeah.
That's because of the people involved and the effort and work that's put in. But understanding that you're never as good as you think you are and you're never as bad as you think you are, I think is important. People fail, especially athletes in the business world. Our buddy Patrick Coogan told me this. He was so right. He said baseball players are either the best business guys in the world or they're the world's worst, because baseball is a game of failure. You either continue to fail and then you keep running into the wall and you keep failing again, and then you look up and you fail, or you keep failing but you get up. You keep failing and you get up, and you keep failing and you get up, and then you have that success. And so yeah, man, it's not getting stuck in that rut and knowing that it will get better if you have the right folks around you.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Recently, we talked on one of our podcasts a couple times ago about the importance of how males treat females, and the importance that, you've already mentioned how big of an impact your wife has had in your success. But you have 2 daughters.
I do.
As well. And so touch on that a little bit, how important it is not only that you are the example that you want them to see, but that how your relationship with your wife impacts that, and how, because I have 2 daughters, I don't have a son to do this with, how your approach with your son plays out with regards to your impact on him with that.
Yeah. Probably one of the biggest blessings I have in this life is the coaches that I've played for. I'm going to rattle off this list and then I'm going to answer your question.
Yeah.
You're going to go, my God. But it's Skip Bertman, Dusty Baker, Lou Piniella, Joe Torre, Tony La Russa, Bruce Bochy. Every one of them's Hall of Fame.
Pretty good. It's a decent list. If you know baseball, you've heard of these guys.
Every one of them they're either in the Hall of Fame or they're going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
The one thing I took from those guys, all of them had this in common, and they were all so successful. They all did a lot of different things, but they all had this in common. Great coaches or leaders of families and men have the ability to lead or coach in players in different ways.
Yeah.
So they don't talk to everybody the same way. They don't teach the jump shot the same way to everybody because your arms may be a little different. The crossover or whatever, and hitting is a great example. So with my kids, first you got to learn how they accept the guidance.
Yeah.
How you can talk to them. What from a disciplinarian standpoint or just expectation standpoint. And once you understand that, then that's kind of where you hit them. The relationship that John and I have is not by chance. The relationship that Mary and Randy Theriot have is something that I try to emulate with my wife. And I never saw my dad, raise his voice, and he was always a protector, and he always provided. And the one thing that my dad did was he sacrificed a lot for his boys. And I recognize that now. When I was a kid, I didn't. So John's family's the same way. I think it's important first to recognize that, and then if you're smart enough and keep your eyes and ears open, it's not that hard. You just do what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, you treat your wife the way that you have learned, because that's what it looks like, and respect is very important. The way you talk to folks is very important, especially my daughters. In sports, when I do get fiery, because I do sometimes.
Maybe.
One of my daughters, if I do that, if I yell a little bit, she's winning. It's no question about it. And you know which one that is.
Yep.
The other one, if I raise my voice, she goes into into her little shell. And so I think taking the time to understand that and learn that, and then knowing that your kids aren't you too.
That's right.
That's something that I really had to look in the mirror and go, okay, Ryan, they're not you. There was things that I could handle, or Jonna could handle, that they may not be able to. It's a different world, man.
Yeah.
This phone has allowed them to be reliant on a lot of stuff, where when we were kids, you just had to go figure it out. And it created very, very thick skin and tough mentality from an athletic standpoint. But nowadays, information's at everybody's fingertips. So, and my dream and my hope for my daughters is to find somebody, number one, first and foremost, that makes them smile every day. That's it. And then after that, I think everything else will take care of itself.
My daughter got married last weekend, right? And the talk that I had with my now son-in-law, when he did come to ask for her hand in marriage, was, look, man, I got three things. I got 3 boxes for you to check. Okay, protect, respect, and provide. Mm-hmm. If you're able to do those 3 things, I don't care what you look like, I don't care what you sound like, I don't care what your education level is. None of those things matter to me, as long as you are all. If you're all in on those 3 things, I'm all in with you, right? And I think that here at TLW, a big part of what we are promoting, yes, is the male leadership aspect, and really, I think you would agree with this. Most people, when they hear that, they would say, oh, he's targeting a younger audience. And I think every age has to hear these things. Now, granted, most, as you get older, then you should have some of this stuff figured out. Mm-hmm. Like you say, for example, all I had to do was really mimic what my dad did. Mm-hmm. Well, there are plenty of people who don't have that.
Exactly.
But they probably have somebody that they could look at, right? So we're going to wrap this up with this question. Okay. Ryan Theriot today looks back at Ryan Theriot at 15, who thinks he could start for the Yankees on that day, okay? And the advice that you give him, knowing what you know now, okay, would be what?
Smell the roses. Enjoy the moment. I did so many cool things, but I was always preparing for the next thing. And it's great because of the position I'm in today. But I did a bad job of understanding the sights, smells, and sounds in 2012 when I slid across home plate to win the World Series. There's things I don't remember a lot of that, because I'm thinking about LSU football's play in Alabama 2 days later. I'm calling Brandon Landry asking if he'll send me his plane to fly us back to Baton Rouge. True story.
Yeah.
I didn't go to the championship parade in San Francisco.
Come on.
I was already thinking about getting back to Baton Rouge. So I would tell that 15-year-old to, enjoy the moment more instead of preparing for what's next. I have people tell me things that happened. I didn't even know I did those things because my mind was already past that.
Awesome stuff. And with that, we will close. Want to thank, obviously, as always, my partner, Sean Owens, our guest, Ryan Theriot. Ryan, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Man. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And as always, we close at TLW Podcast. Go get it.